Welcome to Puny Pod's Monthly Bugle for April 2025. My name is Ryan, and my co-host, as always, is David. David, how are we doing this fine April evening?
Dude, I'm doing really well. I had some really good bomb pizza a little while ago, and there's a lot to catch up on in the MCU. What's going on with you, my man?
Not too much, man. Not too much. It's a busy time around here. I say not too much, and then literally,
I was gonna say, it balances out. It's either not too much or it's hella busy. One of the two. No.
Yeah, got some life stuff going on. Not bad. All hopefully good.
Are we going to see your director's chair in Doomsday? Is that what you're going to tell? Yeah, are you going to spoil?
Right?
No. Okay, never mind. I'll be quiet.
Yeah, so this month we have a jam-packed bugle here, and I'm excited because these are fun things. Like, there is fun stuff to talk about. We're not covering the strikes or failures of Marvel to make money or anything like that. This is like I would say this is like what I want the bugle to be. If the bugle could be what it is this month every month, I'd be stoked on that.
I don't know, man. The SAG after the directors, that's all I had, man. That was like my baby. And then that baby got birthed, but now we have some content, which is good for us to talk about.
Absolutely. So real quick, you may have noticed in the description, we will talk about Daredevil. I will edit it in post a timestamp for you to jump to avoid Daredevil spoilers. We're going to talk about some stuff before Daredevil, though. In some of this, we might spoil some things about Captain America Brave New World, but it's been out for a couple months. It's actually releasing on digital, I think, next week. When you hear this, it'll be like this week that it releases on digital. So spoiling Captain America is totally fair game. But we're going to start here with a preview of the Thunderbolts coming out May 2nd. So just a few weeks here after you are hearing this, you will get Thunderbolts. We thought it'd be fun to do kind of a preview. So I'm going to start with some of the comic book background of the Thunderbolts so that you can go into your local movie theater and be the king of all of the knowledge, or queen, or monarch of monarch of your choosing.
Duke, Czar, all being master time, space, and dimension, whatever. It's fine.
So yeah, starting off with their comic book stuff. Quick primer. I'm trying to go quick here. I promise you this is not going to be my usual review depth. So Thunderbolts introduced Incredible Hulk number 449, November 2nd of 1996, written by Peter David and Mike Donato Jr. Though credited with their creation is the writer Kurt Busiek, and artist Mark Bagley. So they wrote, Kurt and Mark wrote Thunderbolts number 1 and actually kind of carried out the Thunderbolts, if you will. So the Thunderbolts were started by Baron Zemo out of villains from his Masters of Evil, rebranded as heroes who brought justice, quote, like lightning. Over the years, this team has vacillated from full-on heroes to anti-heroes, but they've always kind of been a B-tier team made up of characters who have at least questionable parts of their personality, right? So, not think like Daredevil has been a part of the Thunderbolts, or Red Hulk has been part of the Thunderbolts, Punisher, Venom, some of those kind of guys. In the comics currently, as we record, the lineup is the Revolution, who is Bucky Barnes. He is leading the team. A life model decoy of Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. For those who don't know, the life model decoy is like essentially a very, very, very advanced robot. The Destroyer, who is Sharon Carter. We know her as what is she in the
Power
MCU?
Broker?
Power Broker in the MCU right now. Red Guardian, Alexei I can't say his last name.
Shostakov?
Black Widow, Natasha Romanova, as she is in the comics. White Widow, Yelena Belova. Game Master, Shang-Chi. And then U.S. Agent, a.k.a. John Walker. They're kind of doing their current comic book in the current continuity. It's kind of a greatest hits situation. So, like, first issue they fought Red Skull, then they fought Kingpin, and then it's basically fighting all the big bads, and kind of in a greatest hits fashion. The other major character that's going to play a big part in the Thunderbolts asterisk is Bob, aka Sentry, aka Void. He was introduced in Sentry #1, July 19th, 2000, written by Paul Jenkins, drawn by Jay Lee. His backstory is really interesting, and it'll be curious to see how much of this moves over onto the screen. But he was essentially a meth head who broke into a lab in Canada that was attempting to recreate a amplified version of the super soldier serum. They
Who
called
of
it
us hasn't done that, right?
right. We've been on just a heck of
Let's.
a
You
weekend.
know
We
what?
just gotta do it.
We had a late night Friday. We're like, let's keep this party going.
Let's get the golden century serum. Um, it gave him he ingested it, and it gave him the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns. The Void is a kind of side of Sentry's personality that is a big evil monster who preys on fear and takes over Sentry. Although there's some parts where it's kind of a different side to Sentry's coin, if you will. Over the years, Sentry has tangled with the Void a lot of times, and ultimately in 2023, the comic book version of Sentry was killed by the symbiote god Null. When Null wanted to get the Void, that big evil monster, Null wanted to assimilate that into the symbiote. And in the process, he killed Sentry. So Sentry is currently dead in the comic book continuity. So for anybody who wants to know how the comic books went, that's how they go.
Spoiler alert for the comic books, but yeah. So this movie, I think, first kicked off. From what I understand, like James Gunn, I think back in like 2019 or so,
Sounds right.
throughout this idea for like this Thunderbolts, this kind of group of anti-heroes and super criminals. Then Gunn, he dips over to the DCEU, does Suicide Squad, very similar group as before.
Sir, he did the Suicide Squad?
I'm sorry, I forgot it's like the Ohio State University. My apologies. But there was speculation that the Thunderbolts team would be introduced in the MCU, like going back to like 2019. So Daniel Bruhl shows up as Zemo in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You've got Julie Louis-Dreyfus, who is introduced as Valentina, very long name, Wyatt Russell, John Walker. So they're laying the steps, if you will. Like we're getting closer to there being this supergroup. Executive producer Nate Moore said the Thunderbolts were never considered for the project. This is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier because they would quote cloud the story and take away other aspects from the series. But head writer, former high school classmate Malcolm Spellman said there was quote a lot of chat around the team's potential introducing the MCU and added, quote, I don't know if fans are crazy or not. So it is directed by a gentleman by the name of Jack Schreier, who was attached early in June 2022. The screenplay from Eric Pearson with Feige producing. And I guess from what I've read, Schreier was basically hired after a presentation like blew away Marvel Studio executives. So you get this, there's this hope and tinge of like, go back to Taika Waititi with his like sizzle reel that he did for Thor. And you're like, oh man, here's a relative unknown. Just pulled something out of his, you know what, and man, got hired as the director. So The let's talk about the group. Let's talk about the Thunderbolts asterisk, and we will come back to the asterisk in a bit. Julie Louis-Dreyfus appears as Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. She appeared in Falcon and Winter Soldier. We have James Bucky Barnes, aka Winter Soldier. Sebastian Stan. He first appeared in Captain America: First Avenger. We see him Congressperson, maybe. He was running in Brave New World.
Yep.
And probably by now, he might be president. Who knows? He might be like, he might be the.
We know he's not mayor of New York.
He might be attorney general. Like at this point in time, like the wheels are off the bus. Yelena Belova appears as the new Black Widow, Florence Pugh. She first appeared in Black Widow. It's been a minute since we've seen Black Widow, but she was one of the trained sister of Natasha. She showed up in a Hawkeye as well, believing that Clint had killed Natasha during the events of Avengers Endgame. We get to see, after a very long absence, Hannah John Kamen as Ghost / Ava Starr. Ant-Man the Wasp was 2018, maybe?
Sounds right. That sounds right.
Well, you got a busy schedule. You're like, oh man, I got conflict. So she was the kind of the pseudo antagonist, not really the bad person. She has the ability to phase thanks to like her quantum energy. So she can either go invisible or she can go kind of like formless, if you will. So a little kind of cross between Vision and Invisible Girl.
Yep.
Red Guardian, Alexei Shostakov. I'm not going to be afraid of that. David Harbour, who is the Russian super soldier. We see him in Black Widow. I don't know. Did you see the appearance of the film of them?
Appearance?
Yes.
Yeah, it was so good, dude. They're like in Vegas, like in character. So it was so
in
good.
Character in the red limo that you see in this movie, and he is just wheeling it. And everyone in the back, it's like Julie Louis-Dreyfus, you got Wyatt Russell, you've got like Yelena Belova, and I think it's Hannah John Kamen. I think
so. I think you're right.
And they're just flying around the back of the limo. It looks great. It's so fun. We've got Taskmaster, at least for a while, Antonia Dreykov, who was played by Olga Kurylenko. She is the daughter of the person who ran the Red Room. We saw in Black Widow. A lot of Black Widow we see bringing forth in this movie. John Walker, aka U.S. Agent, played by Wyatt Russell, aka Captain America for like a minute.
Great value, Captain America, as I like to call him.
Great value. We saw him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He was the antagonist there. And then your last comment, the person who's new to the MCU, as far as I know, is Sentry, who's played by Bob, aka Robert Reynolds, aka, and his real name is Louis Pullman. He is the son of what's his name? Pullman.
Bill Pullman. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Looks just like him too.
Oh, he looks spot on. Like I think he's in Maverick, and you see him, and you're just like, wait, did they de-age Bill Pullman and put like
it's too close, right?
Yeah.
So the director, as I mentioned, Jack Schreier, didn't have like a lot of prior work. He did Robot and Frank, he did Beef, he did Paper Towns, he did a lot of like high impact like music videos, if you will.
Okay.
His work, one of the writers there was Joanna Collo. She also worked on Beef, BoJack Horseman. She was one of the script writers, but mostly it's Eric Pearson. And Eric Pearson, we have seen him. His name has appeared in a bunch of different properties: Thor Ragnarok, Black Widow, Agent Carter, and then just a bunch of one shots.
Yeah, really one shots that we watched along with those early movies, like
which
one.
I really liked. Like, I can't imagine anything more fun than be like, hey man, here's $400,000 and here's a couple people. I just want you to film one shot. And I'm like, Thank you. Thank you. I'll put this on my resume. Also did Godzilla versus King Kong and Transformers 1. So those are kind of the production deets. It's been going on for a while. Let me ask you this, Ryan, before we shift to the next topic. What do you think the asterisk means?
That was spoiled. I don't remember the spoiler. One of the international posters actually put the asterisk on
Yeah,
there.
I saw the same thing. Yep.
Um,
It was Japan, the little
yeah,
asterisk, and it said, whole thing's in Japanese, asterisk in English. The Avengers not showing up.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I think it, you know, maybe it's gonna be because there's been a lot of jokes of like we can't call ourselves that. That's been one of the like lines that they repeat in in like every trailer. That's one of the lines that they repeat. So maybe that's going to be the joke is like they want to call themselves Thunderbolts, but like President Thunderbolt Ross says they can't use that name or something. Um and maybe the like asterisk that got spoiled on the movie poster isn't actually the asterisk. I don't know.
Okay.
Um
I think what you said is right. Now, here's the question for you. And I will keep track of these various side wagers and predictions. At what point, at what minute in the movie does Taskmaster die?
yeah, and that's worth mentioning here. So Taskmaster has been absent from a lot of the trailers and clips after their big game trailer. So they had her in the big game trailer for the Super Bowl, but then she has been kind of left out of the rest and was notably missing from the Doomsday lineup that we'll talk about later in the show.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, honestly, I think it could be early on. I'm
So
also
first
so
third, middle third, last
first third.
third.
I'm gonna guess first act. I think she's gonna be an early death. I'm also though curious because we haven't seen her with her mask up, and so there is a possibility. I think an outside possibility that like Dragov's daughter version of Taskmaster is killed and then like
Replace.
replaced with some
Yeah.
other
You can
Taskmaster
see
because
that.
the innate ability to have like that mimicry that she has where she watches someone and can do exactly what they did is definitely like a superpower, right? But
Mm-hmm.
like you could easily quote unquote replicate that with like some technology. You
Right.
got a brain interface that records stuff and makes you do stuff.
Right. Right.
So, what about you? How what's your thought?
Oh, man. To be different, I will take middle third.
Okay.
If I'm going to lose this bet, but I think the only reason is I think there will be they kind of have to fill in the gaps here for people that maybe didn't watch some of the TV, like didn't watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, doesn't know who the Contessa is, haven't seen Ghost in a minute.
Yeah.
Last you saw Bucky was in a TV show that many people didn't watch, and so how they I think it's just going to take a little bit of time to build to it. But if she's in the last third, I will eat my watch.
That's a very expensive watch, folks.
It's not that expensive. It's an Apple Watch. It's not that, but it's that I'm that confident in
Yeah.
she's not going to show up. But she's not in. She doesn't appear in the trailers. They show highlights later in the movie. She does not appear. I mean, good for her. Good to Olga for getting another paycheck. I do not begrudge you. I wish I could do the same. So,
Yeah. Well, and in all reality, this is like these next 2 years, so from now until 2027, it's probably going to be the last time a lot of people show up in Marvel. Um I stand by the soft reset theory after Secret Wars, and so I do think there may be a lot of like rushed like there may be a lot of things like that where people just die who like they don't have interest in carrying on.
okay.
But
Yeah, there's the and we will table it for now, but there's the theories around what movies have not been announced and will show up in the
Yeah,
MCU.
for sure.
And we should probably save that for later one because I watched a Screen Crush video and I spent way too much time going down the Zapruder film of like conspiracy theories of why is this not coming. Anyway, we will uh, delay that for a bit. So,
Friend of the show, Ryan Airy on Screen Crush.
Screen Crush.
I did an episode of Bantha Milk with him once.
Did you? He's great. So
He is
smart.
great.
Love his stuff. Really good. The do you want to get into current content?
Yeah, let's get into current content. I'm gonna leave us just a breath of space here so that editing Bay Ryan can come make his little visit, his monthly visit, and then we'll get into Daredevil Born Again. What's up, everybody? It's editing Bay Ryan here. Hey, if you want to skip all the spoilers about Daredevil Born Again, but you want to listen to the rest of our episode, you want to hear us talk about the Doomsday casting, you want to hear us talk about some free comic book day comics that are coming out, you want to do all the rest of it, you want to skip to 46 minutes and 24 seconds. Again, that's 46 minutes and 24 seconds. When you get there, you'll hear Miss Marvel Miss Minutes, and she will greet you, and you will be able to go on without getting any spoilers. I gave myself a little bit too much time this week. I apologize. Anyways, enjoy the rest of the show. All right, everybody, welcome back. We are back here. We are going to talk about Daredevil Born Again. We are going to spoil everything up to and including episode 8. We are recording on April 9th. So everything up to episode 8 has been released. That is everything except for the season finale, which will release the day that you are listening to this. So if you want to catch up, if you want to get kind of our thoughts, any of the background things we noticed on everything thus far, this is your time to do it before the season finale. So last month we discussed episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4. Great episodes. I forgot to mention, did you catch the scroll reference? I think it was in episode like 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, oh, you just had to sideways put that in. Like, it was a little jarring, but it was like you just had to make something, right?
Had to make it. Yep, it's fine. Whatever. They gotta pay that off.
But
if Ben Mendelsohn shows up for any parts, I'm 500% in for it.
He's dead.
Not in real life. Like, he can show up. They all show up again. It's fine.
That's fair. All right, David, you want to talk about you want to jump in and talk about episode 5?
Sure. So the episodes, I think we talked about in the last Bugle, we talked about the making of Daredevil. There were some reshoots. There was, if you see the first 4 episodes, first one's a little jarring, but by episode 5, this was the heist episode, and I loved it. It was great. It is St. Patrick's Day. It's in New York. There is a bank heist being performed, and you just get this very cool episode. Just, I loved it because this felt like a comic book. Like, you just single episode. There's no greater arc. He's in the right place at the wrong time, or wrong place at the right time. And, Matt Murdock's trying to get a loan for his law firm. He is met by Yusuf Khan, played by Mohan Kapoor. They have a very awkward exchange, which I did not love, and that was the worst part of the episode. But then after, he's got his Funko of his daughter, like, he's super proud.
His daughter is Miss Marvel, by the way.
His daughter is Miss Marvel. Spoiler for the TV show, in California, probably doing something with the new Avengers, right?
Yep.
And it's just I love a heist movie. I love a good bank heist movie. And the tension of the robbers who are threatening to kill the people there. Matt's on the inside. They're trying to break into the vault. He, with his super hearing, can like break the unbreakable vault, like by spinning the tumblers, and like, and they get the diamond out, and then it's the old switcheroo, and people get arrested. He fights the main bad guy. This is a terrible summary, but he fights the main bad guy. Somehow gets pretty worked because like this just seemed like some drunk Irish dude, and like he just did not hold up well. But at the end, didn't get the loan. He returns the diamond with the similar looking throat lozenges, the little candies,
Yep.
which is super fun. And then he agrees to dinner with Yusef and his family in New Jersey, including Kamala. And that was the episode. And I loved it. How
I
about you?
loved that one. It was so good. I did find it a little interesting that they decided to double that one up on the 25th rather than the week before. That would have been the day after St. Patrick's Day. Maybe they thought that was too on the nose, but
They hate Irish people. It's fine. Whatever. We'll allow it.
But yeah, I thought this was so fun, and it was a nearly standalone episode. I think, maybe there's a little bit of it where it's like this is leading to some of the things that Fisk does with like the anti-vigilante task force, but like it was such a cool like mid-season just standalone super fun episode. Like I say, timely with the St. Patrick's Day of it all. And it made it a real blast.
It was great.
Moving on to episode 6. Episode 6 shows us that both Fisk and Matt are not far from their more violent alter egos. Fisk has a confrontation with Jack Deaconesque, aka the Swordsman. Decane?
Yeah, whatever. It's fine. It's French.
Yeah.
Who cares? They're not listening.
Yeah. Who is the swordsman, at any rate. He is the vigilante, the swordsman. And we actually last saw him in Hawkeye. He was Kate Bishop's, I don't think he was full-on stepdad, but mom's boyfriend. Fisk develops, so Fisk has a confrontation with the swordsman due to at like a high society kind of party situation where he finds out high society's actually Fisk finds out that high society doesn't like him very much as mayor. Fisk develops the anti-vigilante task force out of a whole bunch of crooked cops, including the cops that earlier in the series we saw frame the White Tiger for killing another cop as they were roughing up an informant.
But evidently not killing the White Tiger as we saw, right? Like, because Matt detected that he was not lying.
Right. Yep. And the episode actually ends, and Fisk's line through the episode ends where he's fighting Vanessa, his wife's extramarital lover, while holding him captive, and we get to see that there's kind of this bubbling, like this whole series so far it's been like, oh, has Kingpin gone good? Is he not Kingpin anymore? Has he really set things aside? Is he good? Is he good Fisk? And we're just watching his more violent alter ego kind of bubble up.
Yeah, they're both trying to suppress their former pasts, right? Like,
yeah.
And it's becoming harder and harder for them to do so.
Yeah. And then over on the Matt side of this episode, the White Tiger's niece, Ayala, who is likely an analog for Angela Del Toro in the comics, who becomes the White Tiger, is looking to take up her uncle's work and hunt down Muse, the mass murdering street artist who uses blood as his paint. Matt hears of this and suits up as Daredevil to go save Ayala.
Yep. What did you think? Sorry for the coughing. What did you think of the Muse character? Did you know that it was the guy from the bookstore in episode 1, I think?
Yeah, I pieced together that he was the guy from the bookstore, which will actually... Yeah, I pieced that together pretty early on. And we'll talk about the end of Muse's arc in episode 7 here in a second. I do think, like, ultimately, Muse was underutilized and underexplored, in my opinion. He kind of just was a psycho bad guy for the sake of being a psycho bad guy. And he really only served to kind of spark the tension and push Matt over the edge into the Daredevil persona.
Right.
Um, in the comics, he's got superpowers. He is imperceptible when he chooses to be, meaning that like even Matt's super senses cannot sense Muse. Which makes him a really good villain to Daredevil, who, like, despite being blind, has like these, super senses that essentially make him seem not blind, right? Um, and so they didn't really explore a lot of that. They didn't explore a lot of Muse at all. So I do feel like he was a little bit underutilized. But what about you? What do you think?
He was fine. Like Muse was not a character in the comics when I read Daredevil, 100 years ago. I liked having, again, I like a good street level crime
Mhm.
drama, right? As much as the next person. I feel a little sorry for the two women who are like, "Hey, you're famous. Let's take a
Oh
photo with you."
gosh, yeah.
That was a little bit rough, but the presence of a serial killer on the loose triggers in Matt the need to suit up, right? And in episode 7, to your point, that's when Muse effectively attacks. We see the Muse attack on Heather. He's going in for counseling and all this other stuff. And then he just like, she figures out like, this is not a safe scenario. Like the comment, like how quickly can you get to the door?
Door,
Right.
yeah.
And, which was great and creepy altogether.
That actor plays that, like, so the actor who played Muse, he was also in Wednesday.
Okay.
And he plays that guy who like has this surface of very normal, very just on the level kind of guy, but he has this like super dark underside, and it's very similar to someone like an Ed Norton can kind of do that as well, or um who played Professor X in the newest X-Men movies.
Yeah. The oh god, what's his name? The person I was more struck with watching was like, oh, it's Jesse Eisenberg.
Oh
Great.
yeah. Yeah. That's a good call too. Yeah. But just this like on the surface looks like your average, white dude, right? And kind of passes for that, but but he does a really good job at making that switch to being just absolutely evil.
James McAvoy.
James McAvoy,
You know
yeah.
what? He's not in the MCU. He didn't get a chair.
Oh,
At least not yet.
yeah.
So the so while Heather is getting attacked by Muse, Matt and Muse are fighting. Heather is kind of struggling. The AVTF, the Anti Vigilante Task Force, the old Red Beret back in the 80s and 90s in New York, that just like whatever, like turn off your body cameras. Don't. It's totally fine. The plot is basically they all arrive at Heather's office at the same time. Matt is saving her. He is fighting Muse. Vanessa gets a gun, shoots.
Heather gets a gun. Heather.
Heather gets a gun, shoots Muse. Um, Matt leaves. Matt's like, stay with me, Heather. He's just basically talking to her like he's not wearing a mask. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine. Whatever. It's fine. She'll never remember that
Yeah.
until the next episode. And so the ABT, basically like ABTF, that doesn't really roll off the tongue, but basically they get the credit. Like, you took down Muse, you did this. And so Fisk is using this as a political opportunity to kind of champion his anti-vigilante task force, which he's been beating that drum for a fairly long period of time. We're kind of at a time where there's still like some distrust of superheroes, or now we're not even superheroes. These are just like the vigilante people. These are people with
Right.
a dude in a mask, dude in a,
Dude
somebody
with
who,
a sword, yeah.
yeah, totally. Um, and in the closing action, this had like a feeling and a throwback to the finale of The Sopranos, where Fisk is eating dinner at a restaurant, and this person, um, Vanessa,
Oh, yeah.
was given.
Water.
Oh my god, I can't. This voice just kills me. I'm gonna put that aside. But basically, Vanessa, with whom she'd been like kind of liaison with Luca, she tells him he's going to be here at this time. Here you go. Date time. Texts him. Luca shows up, tries to take him out. Bam, bam. Not the ending of Sopranos, and Luca is dead. Fisk asks if he wants to take anything home for dinner for Vanessa, and basically that's the end of the episode. Now the question for you is, I presume that Fisk was involved the whole time. He knew the whole plan.
Yeah.
There was at the time though I watched it, I thought for a second like, oh, Vanessa's going to get cooked in the next episode, but
Yeah.
it seemed like it was part of the plan.
Yeah. Then come episode 8, you kind of figured out that like it, Fisk was in on it the whole time. He kind of is like, "Yep, you sent him to me, thanks." Essentially, and Luca had been a pain in the butt the whole time. He was causing problems for other members of the mafia, and he was getting a little rowdy, and so Fisk had to put him in his place. Um, and then episode 8. Anything else on episode 7? I will say the tension in episode 7. I had to like take a deep breath once that episode finished, because especially through the Muse attack, that tension was just crazy. It like you found yourself holding your breath the whole time. It was really well done there.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they're doing really good job of, in simple scene construction, building tension. In the prior one, where Muse is drawing all the blood out of Ayala, like you're just like, what's going to happen? And this kind of very grim, God, I can't even think of the horror movie off the top of my head, but like this
Almost
weird catacomb.
Saw.
Yeah, kind of saw-ish, if you will, kind of like, and to in what is, very simple set, but in a very short period of time to kind of create this tension, and it's really well done. I would say this, just stepping back, any movie or TV show which makes you laugh or cry or like freak out and get tense, it's well done. It's well drafted, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And episode 8 definitely did that. So episode 8, the first part of it really is showing the effects of the two sides of giving in to the violent nature. So on Matt's side of the story, his life is falling apart as a function of his return to the Daredevil personality. Um, Heather is Heather is really struggling with the fact that she killed someone, and is very anti-vigilante and very, very, very distrustful of Matt. Matt knows that he saved her, but he can't say that because he can't tell her that he's Daredevil. And so he's getting very angry, very agitated, and you are watching that fall apart, as well as his time at the law. Like his law firm is falling apart. He's insulting clients. It's getting really messy on Matt's side of the story. On the other side, Fisk's life is kind of coming together because he turned to the Kingpin personality. He and Vanessa kind of make amends by way of killing Adam. They are really like his the further and further that Fisk leans into Kingpin, the more and more his life kind of comes together. And the more he is building himself up, and you watch even his political actions go from kind of begging the rich to he ultimately is threatening the rich during this episode to get funding for the things he needs. And so ultimately this leads Matt to figuring out that uh that Benjamin Poindexter as Bullseye had been hired to kill Foggy.
Mm-hmm.
Um not it wasn't just a revenge killing for the preceding action. It was actually a paid murder. And ultimately Bullseye is able to break out of prison after Matt actually goes to the prison and assaults him. um and there's this really tense this like talking about holding your breath. The last half of the episode is Wilson Fisk's black and white ball, where it's this high society situation. He's invited Heather as like kind of a political prop because she was saved by the anti-vigilante task force. So you're following her story, and Fisk is about to tell her about Matt. You also have this other B story about like Fisk's weird millennial um staffer who is threatening um journalists to write.
BB.
Yep,
Yep.
threatening BB to write good stories. And you also have Matt at the same function as Kingpin, right? Matt, so Daredevil and Kingpin are at the same function now, and they have to play nice because they're in nice society. And it all really, really, really boils up and boils up and boils up and boils up to the point where Bullseye has broken out of prison, disguised as a guard, disguised as a policeman. He shows up and ends up with a sniper and takes a shot at Fisk, which Matt jumps in front of. And the episode ends on a pretty big cliffhanger, though we have a whole nother episode next week, where Matt is lying with a gunshot wound to his upper left side. And Fisk is escorted off. I think Bullseye is still like at large. And also during this episode, the anti-vigilante task force is just being total douchebags and like deep frying people's hands, like reporters' hands for reporting on stuff. And yeah.
So, Ryan, if we're in this situation and I'm Matt and you're Kingpin and Bullseye's going to shoot you, I promise you, I'm going to tell you to duck. I don't know if I'm jumping from the bullet, man. I'm a little old. I may not be spry enough, but yeah. So, how are you feeling going into the final episode?
It has been so good so far, and I am so curious to see where we're going, because this is not like kind of the way that they've run a lot of Disney Plus shows, where it's like they kind of do the season finale almost a week early, if you will, and then they kind of leave the last episode to
Yeah, we're just
to
like lame cleanup, like whatever,
yeah,
right?
kind of clean up, tie it into the rest of the MCU stuff. But like this is like no, like crap hit the fan at the very end of this episode, and where do we go from here? Where, like, Matt's on the floor in a pool of blood. I assume he's not dead. I
Be a bummer if he was.
It'd be a real bummer if he
Real
was.
bummer, man.
Um, I think maybe we see. White Tiger's niece take up the mantle in the. Actually, you know what? Here bold prediction. Not that bold. I think it's going to be something's going to happen to where Fisk does some big crackdown, and it's going to be all the vigilantes, right? So it's going to be new White Tiger, it's going to be Daredevil, it's going to be Um, it's going to be the Swordsman.
Luke
So
Cage, whatever,
yeah,
right?
yeah, right. That'd be great. Um, all attacking the anti-vigilante task force. It's going to be a big fight between anti-vigilante task force and probably Punisher. Oh man, Punisher coming back.
I think here's what I think. I think what you describe, I think we'll definitely see in the second half. I think this episode, the somehow the Punisher's back in,
Yeah,
right? And you've got Daredevil, the Punisher, Kingpin, and that's kind of where you leave it. And you're just like, what's going to happen in the second half?
and there's bound to be a I would guess there's going to be a cameo. There's going to be some, whether it's a movie cameo or an old Netflix return. There's going to be someone other than Punisher that I think comes back in this universe.
Really, I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. I think they've done like they brought in the swordsman, they brought in a few people, they introduced the white tiger. Like I think they've done enough. I think it's now setting up second half,
that's true.
right?
Yeah,
Like let's
yeah, because season 2 is announced, which was originally the second half of the first season. Um, which I do keep forgetting that's already in place. So it's not like this is the end.
Thanks for visiting the TVA.
now, yep, totally. Now I know you like this movie and you picked it as your fan favorite.
Mm-hmm.
What is the let's go back and revisit our wager.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have some early returns on our wager. So just to update us real quick, you actually have points on the board. So you picked Captain America, Brave New World.
Real quick, just high level. We each pick two movies. We're
Two
going to
movies, two
total up the
TV shows.
revenue,
Yep.
and we're going to multiply it by a critic score and a fan score for two other Marvel properties,
Yep.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. So um, just to run through where you're at right now, you have Brave New World. It's settling in at just over $400 million. Oof. That's a little
Now
rough.
I've got the cruise money coming in. Let's not close this up too quickly.
You do have Fire and Ash, which probably has to make $1 billion to make money. So they're banking on that.
We did not pick profitability. That was not part of the wager. Yeah,
Oh,
I picked Captain America: Brave New World. I picked Avatar: Fire and Ash. Those are my two big revenue ones, and then I multiply it by
Eyes of Wakanda fan favorite. So that's
yep.
the Rotten Tomatoes score on Eyes of Wakanda, which that's
God,
out in August,
please don't bomb this, you
right?
racist people. Anyway,
And
and
then Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which did return a respectable 77% on
yeah.
Metacritic.
So doing the math, I'm at like 315 million or so, give or take.
Yeah.
And because the fiscal year for Puny Pod is actually
Is an
technically in,
April fiscal year.
well, it's March, but we can extend it into April. Like if I've won the major. So anyway, sorry. So let's talk about future MCU projects. Let's.
Well, real quick, I do
I'm
want to
kidding.
mention,
I'm just kidding.
yeah, on my side we have, and I will mention, like, we are too early to project. I did look up to see if there were projections for earnings for any of the movies, that we don't have returns yet, just to be curious where we're at, right? There is not a whole lot of buzz around any of the TV shows that have not been released. Not too surprising. There's a lot going on in the MCU between now and August, or now in December in my case. But like Fire and Ash did have a CinemaCon trailer that has not been released publicly yet, but apparently everybody needed 3D glasses for it because James Cameron has his way with 3D. Um, but then over on my side of the card, I picked Fantastic Four, July 25th release date. Too early to predict, but it did apparently get a new CinemaCon trailer that has not been released to the public yet, but has Silver Surfer in it supposedly. So
Mm-hmm.
excited for when that hits public consumption. My wild card was Superman, a release on 7-Eleven. I forgot that Fantastic Four moved back by a couple weeks to avoid Superman. I was like, oh, did I pick against myself? And then
No, I
no, I didn't.
think I don't think they were this. I could be wrong here, but like I recall them being a week apart, and then they pushed. So usually, like Marvel does, they've got certain windows, and
Yeah,
usually do early July just to make money during like the 4th of July weekend and the early summer holidays. But they pushed off 2 weekends to let Superman like cook, and then hopefully come in, and then
yeah.
go from there.
It's Superman did have an extended trailer that was pretty fun release, so I'm hopeful for that. And then on my TV shows, I had Daredevil Born Again, which is currently returning an 80% fan favorite. So 80%. This is a downward trend throughout the run so far. From what I've been watching, I think it started at like 83% and it's down to 80%. If they stick the landing next week, I could see that going up by a couple of points.
Ryan, let me ask you a simple question. The just so the audience is clear, the fan favorite score for Daredevil Born Again is what?
It's 80% right
80%. And your revenue is how much today?
now. It's 0 right now.
Okay. 80%, 0.
Yeah. Hey,
Carry
guess
the
what?
0. So 0.
If you keep talking like this, I'm gonna cut Avatar off at New Year's Day. So watch yourself.
My accountant's already on this. Anyway, it's good. It'll be good. I think like if I were putting aside the scores, that's really hard to predict.
Yeah.
I think Fantastic Four will do really well. And I think Superman will do really well. And I would say of all the movies that we're talking and all the shows we're talking about, I honestly think the most important one for the MCU is Superman. Because like Marvel wants it to do well.
Yeah.
When DC does well, Marvel does well.
Yeah, if superheroes as a genre are more like
Totally.
if they take up more cultural real estate and if there's more choices, people will be more forgiving of Marvel, right? Like people aren't going to you can get away with more as Marvel if DC's doing well.
Yeah. And if I mean honestly, and again, James Gunn worked for Marvel. I'm sure the MCU is pulling for him. If Superman does great, that's only going to help the Fantastic Four. If Superman is awful, they will just kind of shift it like, I don't know if the Fantastic Four is going to be great. So I'm really hopeful that like Superman sticks the landing, and then that momentum just carries through Fantastic Four.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to something super duper exciting. I watched this whole 5 hours. So, Doomsday, Avengers Doomsday due out in 2026. Marvel hosted a 5-hour plus long announcement live stream. It was their largest live stream ever, and it pulled in 275 million views and over 3.1 million social mentions. This was a big deal. I actually live updated the Ears Up Discord through all this. This was done. This was the announcement of the Avengers Doomsday cast, and it was done by basically panning the camera along the backs of kind of those director style chairs that had names on the back, and about every 15 minutes it would pan on to a new one, and it would play a theme while it was panning that kind of gave you a clue to who you were about to see. And it started with Chris Hemsworth and closed with Robert Downey Jr. We're not going to go through all the names. I will go through some takeaways here in a second. But David, do you have a name that you are surprised, excited, that you want to call out specifically?
I'm excited you watched the whole thing, man. Like I tried. I started for a while. I'm just like staring at the screen. I'm like,
I mean, it was nice with the audio cue because like I could just have it in like a little window off to the side of one of my screens while I'm working, and I could just hear like and I'd look down and see who it was, what X-Men they were about to announce.
yeah, I'm just like, okay, David Harbour's in it. Cool. Gotta come back in 15 minutes and see who else is in it. Yeah, they did 30-ish chairs, 15-minute breaks. One of them, I do appreciate the fact that you didn't have to necessarily miss anything, and there were a lot of people that were updating. I would say for me, kind of knew a lot of these people. I figured that everyone that was just in Thunderbolts is going to be in this movie.
Yeah.
Everyone that was just in Brave New World was going to be in this movie. I would say for me, I would say Simu Liu as
Yeah,
Shang-Chi.
man.
It's been a minute. I really liked his character. You see him on like social media and he just looks like super excited and amped. And I was pretty excited to see him. Like I knew his character would eventually come back, but confirming it started me down the process of like, oh, he's not just in here for like sentimental purposes. Like this, it's going to build to something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty excited about that. And I will say, like, all the way up until the Patrick Stewart announcement, there were a couple things that like I was like, oh cool, like Namor's coming back, or like you say, Shang-Chi. I laughed really hard. They actually, when they did Paul Rudd's, they gave him a miniature chair. It was pretty
Mm-hmm.
funny. But I think the one that like excited me the most, so from Patrick Stewart on, it was a lot of X-Men announcements, and the one that really I was surprised by and I was excited by is Sir Ian McKellen as Gandalf. I mean, Magneto.
I was like, is he still alive? Good God! Like,
Yeah, truly.
I'm kidding. He is a delight.
Yeah.
From everything I've read about him, like he owns a pub in London and he does like reading and stuff. Like, it sounds great. So
Yeah, so I was excited to see him, and then past that, the rest of the OG X-Men cast that got announced, Alan Cumming as Kurt Wagner, Rebecca Romaine returning as Mystique, James Marsden coming back as Cyclops. Like those were pretty exciting. Not you and I texted a little bit of on this side. Maybe not the X-Men we would have chosen, but still pretty exciting.
are you saying you don't want to see a 60-year-old Alan Cumming, aka a host of The Traitor, jumping around in a bunch of blue makeup?
He said,
And
I saw a quote from him
I
that
saw it too.
it's only taking 45 minutes this time rather than the 4.5 hours last time.
Yeah, it's like a much shorter period of time. They had an application of decals and tattoos. It's great. No, I was. Now, I won't spoil anything, but like, I know they're just going to show up for a short period of time,
That's fair.
but I think it'll be fun. I do one of the other. It wasn't like, again, shocking. Also, like, oh, Pedro Pascal's in it. Well, no kidding, he's going to be in it. Like he's
Yeah.
going to be in the last movie. I'm curious how long Gambit, Channing Tatum, Remy LeBeau, I'll make a name for myself, like how long he sticks around.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't hate it if all the X-Men die, but like Gambit is still around. That would be pretty dope. But
That'd be pretty funny.
do you think, okay.
Yeah, so real quick, I'm gonna run down the takeaways from who was on the announcements, right? So we have Thor and Loki back together. Both Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston were announced. The Fantastic Four are clearly going to cross universes. That's probably actually going to happen at the end of their movie, if I had to guess. But their movie is set in a different universe than the rest of our MCU, so they're going to cross universes. There was a good amount of Wakanda and Talokan representation with Namor, M'Baku, and Shuri. There's Thunderbolts, potentially spoilers because we didn't get any Taskmaster reference, and then like I mentioned, the original Fox Not the first class X-Men, but the original Fox X-Men.
The original Fox. We also see Sentry Bob has shown up as well.
Yep.
So we know he doesn't die at the next movie. And that was kind of like the one thing I didn't really, if I'd known what I know now, I kind of would rather not know the information. Like,
And there's enough multiversalness to where I'm like, I don't, because I felt the same way. I'm like, what did we spoil? But there's enough weirdness in the MCU and enough like comic booky, they'll always come back to life.
Yeah.
Where like, I don't want to put too much. I don't want to put too much into feeling disappointed just yet.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It was fun to see the groupings of the Thunderbolts, the Fantastic Four, kind of classic X-Men. You know, Thor and Loki coming back, so those gave really good vibes. There was definitely the element of like I know there's some people online were like, wait, this is it? Where is everyone else?
Yeah.
So when you think about the names, the actors, the characters who are not in, like what jumps out for you? Because I've heard it described, I think it was Robert Downey Jr. Someone said, this is a row and they're going to do this again. And I'm fairly certain it'll be another row, right?
Yeah.
So who do you think, like which groups of characters will be in the row?
So I think, so I'll talk about the notable missing and then I'll kind of mention who I think will be in that row. So the Young Avengers as a whole were missing, right? None of the Young Avengers showed up. And we know that that's building. That's been a couple of after credits scenes and some references in like Hawkeye and stuff. Totally missing there. None of the Marvels showed up. None of what I'm calling the Gamma Gang, aka Hulk, Scar, Red Hulk, She-Hulk, Leader, Abomination. None of them. None of our magic users, Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, Clea, who was introduced in the after credits for Doctor Strange, Wong, Mordo, Wiccan, Agatha. Nobody was there. None of our street level heroes, so no Spider-Man, none of the Spider-Men. No Daredevil, right? Charlie Cox wasn't there. No Luke Cage, nothing like that. And then none of the non-Norse gods, right? So we have Moon Knight out there who is in the Egyptian, involved with the Egyptian gods. We have Hercules was introduced, being played by Brett Goldstein at the end of Thor: Love and Thunder. And we have Zeus. None of them showed up. So I think those are notable absent folks. I think probably if I had to guess for the second line, I'm gonna guess probably the street level group. I think we will probably see at least Spider-Man, and I would guess Daredevil, depending on how his show shakes out.
Well, you just told us that he died in the last episode, but let's keep going.
So yeah, I think at least Spider-Man, maybe some more Spider-Verse stuff, but and I think Young Avengers have to show up. That like almost has to happen.
Okay, let me ask you this. So when you look at the second row, right? And the first row, they had two popular, bookenders, if you will, right? Who do you think will bookend? We're assuming this happens. Maybe it doesn't.
Sure.
Who do you think will bookend the second row?
I think Tom Holland starts it.
Okay.
Or maybe he ends it because everybody knows he's got a movie after that.
I could see that.
But he's on one end. I think Tom Holland is on one end. I would guess on the other end would be Mark Ruffalo.
Okay. So you think kind of you're going down the Avengers route. So maybe a Chris Evans. Okay.
Yeah, and I do think Brett Goldstein, I think Brett Goldstein's Hercules will appear.
Really?
Maybe as like somebody helping the Avengers, right?
Okay,
Maybe as a
let
member
me
of
ask you this. More likely, Hercules or Blade?
Hercules.
Wow.
Hercules is in the MCU proper. I mean, I
So
know
is
Blade.
Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
Dude, it's just the last movie.
Yeah. I think Hercules can work as like he's a member of the Avengers. In the comics, he's like another member of the Avengers, and so he doesn't need to be like he can be like a Hawkeye, right? He can be just a soldier in the fight.
Okay. All right, let's do this. I will wager you one local beer of your choice that Wesley Snipes and Blade are in this movie.
Okay.
He just died, like whatever. Like they're
And
gonna bring him back. Like why not? Who cares?
I will give you any Blade. If Mahershala Ali shows up, I will even give you it.
Now I would not be shocked at all if they're like, oh yeah, Blade is coming, and we're gonna shoehorn Mahershala Ali in for like 74 seconds of this movie, which I think would be a complete waste. I could completely see that. All right, wagers met. Okay, cool.
I think
Done. In.
least likely to show up group, by the way, is the magic users.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Like, I don't think it means that they won't
Yeah.
be in,
Maybe
but
Strange. Like in the Secret Wars story, Doctor Strange is a big part of that story. So maybe he comes back at the end from like an adventure he was having with Clea. Um
yeah.
to create Battle World or to stitch together Battle World. Yeah.
Would you be shocked to see Mordo back?
I'd be I will say I would be less shocked today than I was before this live stream.
Okay.
The reason I say that is we know that Mordo is part of the Illuminati in the universe where Patrick Stewart where in a universe where Patrick Stewart is
Mm-hmm.
Dr. X and is also part of the Illuminati.
So, on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is Edward Norton and 10 is Robert Downey Jr., what number are you giving
Mordo,
Mordo?
probably a 3 or 4. Like
Okay. All right.
I
Fair
don't
enough.
expect him to show up, but he could.
Okay. Fair enough.
How about you?
That sounds about right. I would say of the people, like when you look at the bookend, I think that Chris Evans will be one.
Okay. That's a bold pick.
I think Mark Ruffalo's a really good call. That would have been another one of mine.
That actually, no, you know what? Chris Evans and Mark Ruffalo make a lot of sense because that makes up the original 4 like main Avengers, right? So it started with Thor, ends with Robert Downey Jr. who's playing Doom, but two sides,
Yeah.
two original Avengers, and then you start row 2 if they do a row 2 or whatever with Chris Evans and end with Mark Ruffalo or
I think you
some
start with Mark Ruffalo and with
yeah.
Chris Evans and people lose their minds.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're just like, is he coming back as Cap? Is he coming back as someone else? Is he coming back as a Nomad?
Everybody speculates based on like what sound was playing behind, what theme was playing behind him.
Totally. By the way, did you hear anything about the Wolverine live stream? It was like 9 hours of. Did you hear about that?
The other night I saw it on because I follow Marvel on YouTube, and I didn't watch it when it was live, but I turned it on. And it's just
he's this Hugh Jackman in the outfit, just breathing, and then somewhere in the middle 9 hours is like 5 seconds of him like gesturing.
That's hilarious.
Which if I watched, I swear, if I watched that whole time, that's all I got, I'd be so pissed. Anyway, let's keep going.
All right, let's move on to our other big announcements. So last week was CinemaCon. CinemaCon runs from March 31st through April, or ran from March 31st through April 3rd at Caesar's Palace in Vegas. Frequently, CinemaCon brings out a bunch of trailers. This year was no different. Amongst the announcements for Fast and Furious X Part 2 and new trailers for Avatar Fire and Ash and everything else, we did get a little bit of some Marvel news. Marvel has a million announcement platforms, so I'm never too surprised when they don't make a big splash at CinemaCon. But I think Sony kind of forced their hands a little bit because Sony does have a conference at CinemaCon and did make a big splash. We did get, so what we got was name for our live action MCU movie, and then dates for both live action and Spider-Verse animation. So in the live action MCU, our Spider-Man movie that will be coming out between Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars is Spider-Man Brand New Day. So we break the home. There's no home in that. Spider-Man is homeless. That was terrible.
I'm not going to respond.
That releases, we kind of previously had known this, but this confirmed it, releasing on 7/31/26. Director, these were previously announced details, but just to remind everybody, directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who previously directed Shang-Chi. Tom Holland has been is announced as being in this. Recently, Sadie Sink was tied to this project, and then Zendaya is assumed to have been cast. She supposedly was reading the script with Tom Holland, which you would think that somebody who is not cast would not be allowed to do that. So likely Zendaya will also reappear as MJ. Moving over to our Spider-Verse animation, we have Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, which I think we already knew that title, but that is releasing on June 4th, 2027. So long time to wait for that one, unfortunately. But directed by Bob Perschetti and Justin K. Thompson, produced by Phil Lord, Chris Miller, Amy Pascal, Avi Arad, Jinko Gato, with the screenplay by Phil Lord, Chris Miller, and David Callum. So that's Lord and Miller. If you've ever, the Lego movies, or Lord and Miller are all over. They do a lot of animated movies. So yeah, dates being announced next year. Next year we get Spider-Man Brand New Day live action, and then Spider-Verse animation in 2027.
If you could pick one and only one can come out, what would you pick?
Oh, that's tough, man. That is tough. I would say the animated. I love the live action.
I'm the same thing. That's the proper answer. Like, we've been waiting for it for like 3 years. Like, come on, let's just make this baby.
I think the Spider-Verse animated movies are going to have really interesting books written about them afterwards. There's some behind the scenes drama with those. And so I think they're going to be an interesting case study after the fact. So that'll be interesting when that happens.
Yeah, I'm obviously looking forward to both of them, but come on, Spider-Verse, let's go, man. Let's go, baby.
So yeah, moving over to our comic book news. I wanted to run down some stuff about Free Comic Book Day, because you won't hear another monthly bugle before Free Comic Book Day. So Free Comic Book Day is a yearly holiday, first Saturday of May every single year. For brick and mortar comic book stores, this is one of their biggest days of the year. Think of Black Friday. This is their big deal. Most shops go all out. They bring in local artists. They bring in comic book authors. They bring in cosplay groups like the 501st, Stormtroopers, and all kinds of fun stuff. I used to participate in this at my local comic book store. They have a blowout bash of fandom. It's a really good time. Comics that are given out are usually kind of a sampler. So they're not just pulling comics that were released that week off the shelves and giving those to you for free. That's actually how I thought it worked first time around, but they're special releases for this day. they tend to be kind of a sampler of what's coming out the rest of the year. This is a great way to get yourself into comics, get your kids into comics, get your friends into comics, or just go hang out with a bunch of nerds and have a good time. Just go to your friendly, like, local comic book shop and just go hang out. This is like, when you see May the 4th type celebrations, that kind of stuff, it's the same sort of deal. It's just a really fun celebration of nerddom. Looking at Marvel's releases for that day, so we have Fantastic Four and Giant slash Giant Size X-Men #1. So it's a double. All of these are double feature. Well, most of these are double features. So they have basically Fantastic Four and X-Men story in the same book. Really fun. This is kind of your this is meant to kind of attract your classic comic book readers. For those of you who want classic comic book stories, this is a great kind of entry point. We also have Amazing Spider-Man and Ultimate Universe #1. So the Ultimate Universe recently restarted. It's a different Ultimate Universe than was released in the early 2000s. It's a whole thing. But this is, a good for people who are more into comic books. Maybe this is a really great, kind of what is going on in Marvel right now, as far as like somebody who maybe knows a little bit more about comics and wants to get into it. Get into Marvel. So this is a great thing. This would be the one to pick up if that's what you're into. Most stores let you pick up, one or two, depending on how many they have. So, if you are somebody out there who is, an adult and you want to get into comics, I think picking up Fantastic Four and Amazing Spider-Man is gonna, those first two I mentioned, that's gonna be a great play, get you started. For our Star Wars fans out there, go listen to Bantha Milk. Star Wars #1. Basically, it's a Luke Skywalker story, as well as a Qui-Gon Jinn story. There is also Ironheart and Marvel Voices #1. So this tends to highlight. So Marvel Voices tends to highlight underrepresented voices within comic books. So they do a lot of stories from creators of color. They also do a lot of stories from like the LGBTQIA community, that sort of thing. So really love that. I like that book. They tend to be kind of self-contained a little bit more. And then last one here, definitely one I'm going to be picking up is Iron Man and His Awesome Friends / Spidey and His Amazing Friends #1. This is based on the preschool shows. They do have like coloring pages in them and stuff too. So if you want to get your kids into comic books, these are a great option, right? You didn't pay anything for them, so you don't got to worry when they rip them up. And they have some fun little activities for the kids to do along the way. Plus, they get to watch, they get to see Spidey and Iron Man and that kind of thing.
So, question for you. Knowing my Marvel comic MCU perspective, you have to pick out one of these for me. What would you pick for me?
I would say for you, and I know you're an X-Men fan, so absolutely, I think the no-brainer is Fantastic Four Giant Size X-Men.
Okay.
I think for somebody who read comics in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, 80s, that sort of era, that's going to be a great book. Anybody who read comics forward from the 2000s, I would change that to probably Amazing Spider-Man Ultimate Universe.
Okay, cool. Check it out.
So yeah, go check out your friendly local comic book shop. Real quick, I'm going to blast through Marvel Unlimited releases. So we had some #1s. I'm only going to mention the #1s. I'm not going to mention the dates they came out. They are on Marvel Unlimited. You had Magic, Cable, Sam Wilson as Cap, Kidpool and Spider-Boy. Hell Hunters, which is World War II Ghost Rider with Bucky and Wolverine. And then a Star Wars book about the Battle of Jakku, all come out on Marvel Unlimited. And then one that I just want to mention, I'm just going to mention the title. is that they also did a what if Mickey and friends became the Fantastic Four. So very silly kind of premise, but fun anyways.
Hello, free crossover.
Right?
Which Mickey and Friends is the parking lot? Is it Thing? Is it anyway? I'll be quiet. Real quick, we'll close out with some MCU anniversaries. So every month we kind of, when we do the Bugle, we look at retrospectively like what came out, what was significant in the month. And April's a pretty important month for MCU and Marvel content in general. So April 4th, 2014, 11 years ago, Captain America, the Winter Soldier came out. I can't believe it was 11 years ago. Avengers Infinity War, April 27, 2018, and almost a year to the very date, April 26, 2019, Avengers Endgame came out. The first season of Daredevil came out April 10, 2015, so almost 10 years to the date. And I don't know if you remember watching it, but I was super amped.
Oh, yeah.
When that came out. But maybe most importantly, the singular title that is most emblematic of the MCU. In April 2013, Feige mentioned he was, quote, confident Inhumans film would be made, and history was made after that because we all love. Oh no, it never came out. Never mind. So,
I mean, a TV show did. The
TV show did, yeah, but not film. Never was made. So anyway, the Winter Soldier, Infinity War, Endgame, big ones for April. So,
right on. Well, real quick, I did want to plug our socials. You can find us on any social media. I will say the ones that do get show announcements. I have automated show announcements going out on Facebook. I have automated show announcements going out on our Instagram, and brand new this hopefully this month is that we do have show announcements going out on Blue Sky. We are Puny Pod across all platforms. PUNYPOD. Go check us out. Get those show announcements. Real quick, before we go any further, I'm gonna hand it over. We have somebody to interrupt the show real quick, give us a rundown of what's going on the network. What's up, everyone? This is Ryan from Puny Pod. I'm interrupting the other great Ears Up Network show that you were already listening to tell you about what's going on around the rest of the network. First up, we have our namesake show, Ears Up. Their last episode was about Eric going to Universal Orlando and reviewing Twosome Chocolate Emporium. Their next episode will be a history of Pendleton Woolen Mills done by Taryn. Really excited for that one. Moving over to Supreme Resort, they wrapped up their March mental illness with Case of the Pools and the Rest, where they brought on special guest Tag from DL Weekly and the Hub Crawl and debated the best hotel pool in all of Disney USA. Up next, they have Epcot's Tepanito versus Benihana. That one is sure to be fire. Speaking of something that's fire, Scraping the Vault has Hot Frosty out. If you need that Christmas spirit in April, they've got your ticket. Looking at my show, Puny Pod, I cashed in my bet with David, and we watched Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. Coming up next, we have our monthly Bugle, which is our news show with a Daredevil review, a Thunderbolts preview, and a free comic book day preview. Our next rewatch will be WandaVision, which is due out early in May. Last but certainly not least is Bantha Milk. They have a few around the Dejeric tables, which is their round table discussion of all things Star Wars, and they are starting up their Nos Nugs or Nostalgic Nuggets from Andor Season 2 that will release each week as the Andor episodes release. Head to earsup-podcast.com to get links and all the notes about all of these shows. Back to the show you were listening to. Awesome. Thank you, Other Ryan. Other than that, check out the Patreon. We've been releasing some fun. Oh my goodness. I need to edit our Tokyo Drift super secret spoiler show because it was a blast. We had some really good times with it. And finally, our next main show is a return to form. We've been teasing this for 3 months. I know you fans have been waiting for it. We are back to MCU content this month. We will have with our next main show WandaVision, 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 WandaVision.
I made the mistake of listening to all the intro themes and ruined my brain again because it's like you flash back to 2021 was like, can't go outside because the air is going to kill you. And let me watch this show, and I'm listening to the songs. Just anyway, I will say I might push back a little bit. We've had MCU content except
That's true.
for the last
That's
episode,
true. A rewatch review.
but a rewatch review for sure. So, real quick before we sign off, like, what's your expectation level for this? Like, have you watched it recently?
WandaVision?
Yeah.
I have not started my rewatch. I meant to last weekend. I am going to be binging it. This is going to be a blast.
But when was the last time you watched it? When was the last time you kind of sat down and watched?
First time it released. I have
Damn.
not rewatched it at all. So, and that's what's going to be interesting with these TV shows because I mentioned this a little bit in our Saga review. Part of why I started this whole show is because I don't rewatch things enough. I just don't. That's just not an experience that I have done a lot of, and so this is something that excites me, and so I am really excited to get into stuff that I am pretty sure I have only watched once. Largely, some of the movies I've watched a few more times, but the TV shows I'm pretty sure I've only watched them a single time through. So I'm pretty excited to revisit and see what I missed, see what WandaVision is definitely one where like rewatching is a different experience than watching the first time. Because you kind of know once you know the cards that are going to be played, it's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited. How about you?
Yeah, it's funny. So it's hard to separate the show from like what was going on at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first show was supposed to be Falcon the Winter Soldier, got delayed. Feige, they pivot, they bring in WandaVision. They talk about how that was actually like kind of the perfect starting show. And I remember like back then there was like no sports. Maybe I could watch some cornhole on TV. And you're just like, what's this? New Marvel content? Sign me up. I don't care how much Disney Plus costs. And it was great. And I were watching with friends. We did a live watch with Dan and Vicky and Brianna and other. Like, it was great. Loved it. It holds a very kind of sentimental place in my heart in a weird way, but I'm looking forward in watching in retrospect.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that does it for us here at the Monthly Bugle. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for having a great time with us. We will see you in WandaVision, and until next time, enough said.